So in yesterday's lecture, we stopped at a question like the V model. It has been stated generally befits managers rather than program designers and developers. So did you guys give it any thought over that? So do you believe in it or don't believe in that, and what is the reason behind it? What is your logic behind it? So generally, because engineers and developers are the one who are actually coding and implementing, but most of the times project requirements and the upper level things are also decided by a group of project managers and stakeholders and clients, and obviously developers are also involved. So what do you think about that this V model befits managers more than it befits the developers or designers? What do you have to say about it? So, okay, so let's go a bit beyond true. So, would you like to elaborate why do you think it is true according to you? Because ultimately, developers or engineers are the one who actually construct the software right from the scratch, and it is very important that a sort of a clear communication exists between the managers also who may not be that abreast with the current technology. Not to say that they are totally out of technology, because even to become a manager in a big software project, you have to have had lots of years of experience of actually working on softwares. Then only you become a technical manager. So, with changing technologies, it becomes really very challenging. So, Prasad is saying that the way it is structured, management of events is simpler than managing software. Yeah, so so this observation is somewhat right, but try not to see them as totally isolated or antithesis of each other. I think both of them feed off each other. So that is why even when you are working in real life and in a team, so basically in a team there are developers, there are senior developers, then program managers and technical managers. So it is always important that all of them are communicating clearly with each other and trying to understand the external or extra burden that the developers may also be facing while working to fulfill the demands that have been posed over them. So that is why it is very important that even as developers, when you feel that something is not quite right in the way the demands have been kept, you must speak out. Yes. So as Sanidhya rightfully pointed out that again it's a classic case of expecting something, demanding something, and receiving it. So unless and until there is a two-way communication, then obviously there is a case that one party might feel a bit unheard, especially when their core issues have not been paid heed to. So that is why always try to maintain that channel of communication clean between your team members also, and even within your team, with especially your first form of contact with the stakeholders. So generally developers do not directly talk to stakeholders and clients. It's the program managers or the technical managers who schedule the meetings, and then they share the minutes of the meeting with the developers. So that is why it is important that concerns are always voiced. Otherwise, it reflects very poorly on the final outcome of the product. So then it almost becomes like a can of worms. So that is why whenever any model specification or design is being developed and it is consistently being discussed, it is important that developers do not just consider themselves as people who will give birth to the software. You also should always know that you have the power to voice your opinion also in case you're facing any problems. So that is very important. All right. So today we will talk about one of the prominent software development life cycles used in most of the industries currently. So it's called as the agile methods, and agile methods are considered to be improvement over lots of models that we have discussed so far. But going forward, I want you to look at agile methods as not just a set of methods, but as a philosophy. So, as a philosophy of developing something. It is because when we consider agile as a philosophy, then it is not only restricted to software engineering, it can be uh, extended or extrapolated to any other projects that you may be doing in things going forward. So, today we will try to understand a bit about agile methods and what makes them so popular in current software industry. So from this diagram, so on left hand side is the waterfall model, on the right hand side is the model of agile. So on first look, how do you distinguish between these two diagrams? What is clearly evident to you when you look at these two diagrams?
Iteration of protocols.
Prasad, sorry, your voice was not clear. Iteration of processes, yes. So whereas in waterfall there is at max only one iteration, in agile we can see that there is a possibility of multiple iterations. Anything else? Anybody can notice from the first look of this diagram? So Garvit is saying that there is a chance of reconstructing problem and solving again if something goes wrong in one cycle. Yeah, so if we put one cycle as one prototype of the product, then if something has been identified as not working quite good, we can go back and try to work on it. It's a continuous updation, yes, of the product that is being developed. So generally, Agile is considered to be, this is another diagram to show you, just to make it clear in your minds, the difference between the waterfall and Agile model. So here again, you can see that there is a sequential flow of information going on, whereas in Agile, you design, you test, you design again, and then you reiterate this process. So what do you think is the advantage of iterating the software development in small scales? Obviously, you cannot iterate software at a large level. You have to break down it into smaller pieces. So, what do you think is the advantage of this type of software development? So, it makes it handling of bugs comes uh, after identification of bugs. So you literally need to identify the mistakes before you can rectify them. So how does Agile help you in what about the identification of bugs? How does it differ? How does identification of bugs or problems differs in waterfall model and Agile model? Yeah, it facilitates getting feedback from the test users and then slowly incrementally developing based on their feedback. So that is why it is flexible. So Tarun, you mentioned it is flexible for stakeholders. stakeholders. Okay, it's flexible for stakeholders. So in what manner do you think it is flexible for stakeholders? Yeah. So developing, testing, and continuously updating it is an advantage that Agile methodology provides us. And again, it is important to remember that there is a constant communication happening after each version of the product is being released. So that itself provides a lot of robustness to the product that is being developed. Yeah, so again, one of the philosophies of Agile we will see is continuous communication over the period of development of the software. So it really helps in the quality of the product that is getting developed and ultimately enhances the survival value of the software. So make sure that whenever you are developing any software, not only it is important to you know talk among your team members, but also again to the people who have placed the demand of the software on your team. So that is why, so most of the times, even in the software industry, mostly we also interact with UX and UI designers, because as software developers, we write the code and develop apps, but ultimately UX and UI designers help us to understand how fruitful that interface is when it comes to being used by the people. So that is why even with them, we used to sit for a long period of time and try to understand the constraints and the pros and cons of a particular design. So that is why, so that in the long term, the burden of that error is not quite big, and that definitely leads to a win-win situation going forward. So as you have identified correctly, Agile emphasizes the iterative development of the software, and basically it breaks the complex software into small pieces and then attempts to build software in pieces. Uh, did you ask any question, Gaurav?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we could not hear you. So,
Ma'am, I wrote it in the comment
okay,
box.
sorry. Do we develop complete project in an iteration or just a part of it? Yeah. So again, you break down it into pieces, which we will understand are called as sprints. And so basically you work in short cycles. So these short cycles are called as sprints, and Scrum is one of the framework in Agile. So usually in industry scenario, sprints last for 2 weeks. And in academic scenario, I wouldn't expect you to fully follow Agile, because there is a stand-up daily meeting of stand-up also required over here. But just to provide you an idea so that you could develop, an analogous methodology to maybe finish your projects. So both Agile and Waterfall are valid approaches, but again, very important to always know is that do not just blindly select the development life cycles without thoroughly understanding the problem you are trying to solve. So a development life cycle is not isolated from the problem that you're solving. So that is why the first critical concern will always be that you understand the project that you're trying to solve, and then try to see what kind of methodology at least theoretically makes sense. And then as you go, as you proceed with that, do not hesitate to alter or transform your ways in case you are not getting what you expected. Always remember, software development is more of an empirical process. You learn as you proceed. So with that mindset, it becomes a little bit easier to handle the setbacks that we notice. Okay, so this methodology has allowed software projects to respond to changes. So why do you think that Agile methodology, looking back at the diagram that had been shared, why do you think it is able to respond to changes? Why has this assertion been made? What is so special about Agile methodology that it allows or holds space for responsiveness to changes. And what sort of changes could really happen? So what is it about Agile that it makes space for changes? As we go through all the processes in each iteration, so what does iterative nature bring with itself? What is so special about iterative nature that it holds space for responding to changes? Okay. Yeah, so there is a sort of leeway to look back and improve, and there are versions and patches and updates of it. But think of who is the party who is triggering these changes, or who is the source of these changes. Who are these people? Yeah, so developers, stakeholders. So because they are again consistently talking among each other, and since after each version, again they are sitting and taking out time and literally evaluating the function of the product that has been made, and then based on that, proceeding. So it's almost analogous to the risk assessment used in spiral model. In spiral model, you were assessing the risk of going forward. In Agile, you are actually looking at the software, its functionality. Has it been able to do what was planned in the previous sprint? And then going forward, what all actions need to be performed again to develop the version +1 of the software. So that is why, knowing the fact that Agile allows responding to changes is one thing. The other question that arises is why it is so important to be able to respond to changes in software development. Why should we even bother about responding to changes when it comes to software development? Okay, so because ideas change over time, so you could also look at it as demands getting changed or refining over the period of time. As you spend deeper amount of time in the project, you sort of gain a deeper amount of understanding of the project. So that is why changes come from there. Yes, so again, as Prasad and Tarun have mentioned, that when we spend deeper amount of time in any project, we get to understand it in a better manner, and naturally, we can identify spots wherein changes are needed and indispensable. So basically, again, when you talk about flexibility, so as you had mentioned earlier, for software to be able to survive in a long period of time, it must be developed in such a manner, like remember the example of the Denver International Airport we had discussed. Everything was set up in a prior manner, but that solution somehow failed very badly in the face of a change. And the change was only about scalability of the system. And so that is why even in the projects that you are working, try to identify that what could be the major changes your software might face and how you could rectify it or over the period of time. So scalability is to the multiple platforms is also one of the changes that softwares often have to face. So this is why Agile allowed software projects to respond to changes because of the nature of the way it provides the platform for the software to be developed. There is nothing specific or special about Agile. The only thing is that it is allowing us the methods to develop patches or updates and analyzing them, evaluating them. So basically, we are moving step by step in the process and the journey of developing a software, and that is why when we take tiny steps, sometimes it becomes more convenient to respond to changes. But again, speed has to be one thing that has to be always kept in mind. So rather than looking at Agile methodology only specific to software engineering, although it is heavily used in software engineering, try to look at it as agile solutions or as a philosophy, but mean not necessarily as a set of business practices, because ultimately uh, they have found applications in many other fields as well. And Prasad has rightfully pointed out that the user base and expectations keep changing over time, so the product has to be able to keep up and be relevant all the time. So again, asking on this question, Prasad, you mentioned that user base and expectations keep changing. How does a developer get to know that the user base and expectations are changing? So what source of information will the developer may be able to access, or what kind of people he or would be able to talk to, or is it developers responsibility to be abreast with the changing user base and expectations? So how do you imagine all this? Okay, so again, feedback from users and professional reviews is vital. And even if you look at Play Store, their voice of customers are there. So definitely, you should uh, take use of the open forums wherein people have openly voiced their opinions. And Twitter is also one of the platforms, although the reliability and accuracy of these platforms are always questioned, but again, feedback is essential. One another thing I want to share with you is that most of the times when a product is getting developed, there are product managers. So what product managers do is they obtain a brief idea of what the software developer or engineer is doing, what features they are trying to inculcate in the software, and they generate a questionnaire or a survey which talks about those features indirectly to the customers, and then they try to gauge their responses. So this is often called as ethnographic study in software development, just to understand that how customer is feeling about a product that is still in development. So there's lots of things that keep on going parallelly with software development. Although as a software engineer and developer working in a corporation, you might not be exposed to everything like this because it is happening at broader level. But as you spend more and more time in software development industry, you would learn to appreciate that there are actually interdisciplinary things that are interconnected in the process of software development. So earlier when Agile, if you read at the history of Agile methodology, it was again a set of people who were not necessarily from the software development background, but I remember one of them was aerospace scientist. But they had started to identify that there were serious problems with the existing lifestyle models, and then they had assembled at a particular place and founded the manifesto and tried to brainstorm over the problems, and within a day or two only, I think in their second meeting they were able to develop this Agile methodology. It's very interesting to read the history of Agile. At that time they did not know what to call it, but because it was light or lightweight compared to the existing development life cycle models, they sort of called it, but later on the name Agile was given. This is a bit of fun fact. So basically, the Agile Manifesto talks about individuals and interactions over processes and tools, focuses on working product over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan. So if you look at this manifesto, do not try to look at this as individuals and interactions versus processes and tools. It's not a competition that is going on between these two categories, as they have clearly mentioned that they value items on the right, but they value items on the left more. There could be situations wherein they might have to follow some of the possibilities in the right hand side of this table over the left hand side. But overall, if you see, it doesn't really say anything about technology. It is actually telling us about the way we start thinking about the product. The technology obviously will deliver what we have been thinking. So that is why they call it Agile as a philosophy rather than as a methodology or software development life cycle, because uh, when you try to focus on the things on the left hand side, what happens is you develop a deeper level of clarity. And that clarity definitely goes into the pipeline of your software product development. So it's not that you get clarity about all these things and then it's done over there. You will definitely bring it to the process of software development. So it is important to notice that software development in 21st century cannot be developed in isolation with the customers or users in an isolated universe. You at least you have to have a good amount of understanding, be it by talking to people or at least getting the information from secondary sources. So there are always two ways to get information about all these things. First is obviously primary data, the second is secondary data. What happens in primary data is you yourself go out and talk to people and try to understand their opinion, attitudes, behaviors about a particular solution you are trying to make. If you get secondary data, what happens is you don't go yourself. You might outsource the work or you might use the already available data. One of the very good sources of already getting information from the already available data is Pew Research. So generally, if you go to the website of Pew Research, most of the times they are giving lots of data about the changes in technology and the developments in technology. So if you are trying to develop something, you might like to cite work from Pew Research and then use it for your own software development. So try to understand that in Agile, they have focused on individuals' interactions, have emphasized on the working product. Extremely important to collaborate with your customers time to time. Obviously, you cannot spend most of the time talking to customers. There has to be a systematic manner, a timetable, or at regular intervals, maybe once quarterly. You can talk to your customers or once in every 3 months, and then responding to change. So what is happening here is that rigidity inherent in the existing software models is sort of getting questioned and questioned for a good reason. So this came up because of certain existing problems that were identified in the existing models, and that is why this philosophy came up. Not to say it is perfect. Maybe around 20 years, 2 decades down the line, maybe there will be questions on agile methodology as well. Maybe you will be the ones developing a new set of methodology. But again, understanding a current methodology or any aspect is very important before you can point out the errors in it and then move on to rectify it. So generally, Agile has 12 principles, and I've just written them down here for your perusal. So again, they are focusing on customer satisfaction through early and continuous software delivery. So it is very important to focus on this term customer satisfaction. Ultimately, if the customer is satisfied, then only you can sort of estimate the success of whatever you are trying to make, customer or your stakeholder. Otherwise, most of the efforts that you put in will have to be put in again so that your stakeholders can be made satisfied. So, and I know you are all in third year and trying to understand the development of software and implementing in system design through programming and coding, and that is very important. And I also want you to keep in the back of your mind that ultimately, even in hackathons, if you participate, ultimately you're trying to create value through your software. So that is why it is also emphasized in Agile that customer satisfaction through early and continuous delivery is essential. And it accommodates changing requirements throughout the development process. As we have already discussed, it is quite responsive to the changes, to the newer demands. And if some constraints have been imposed or something external or extra is expected, then Agile provides space for that. Frequent delivery of the working software. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just good enough is also fine. Just that the users, the developers and stakeholders should be able to see at least the input that is going into the software and the output that is coming up, and obviously it gets scaled over the period of time. So collaboration between business stakeholders and developers throughout the project is essential so that the requirements are clearly understood. Both the parties know what is to be done, and so the errors can be minimized. I actually had a meme to show you which explains this. Just give me a moment. So if you look at this diagram, I just want you to look at this cartoon and tell me what you understand out of it. So expectation of customer, Chinese whisper kind of problem. So how do you, what kind of analogy you can see in the software development in this diagram? And and what would you do essentially as a team to minimize ending up in the similar scenario? Lacking of the understanding of problem. So again, Garvit, since there are multiple uh, entities involved, there are customers, project leaders, engineers, programmers, and all these people. So again, all of them should be able to understand the problem well. But what would have happened if there would have been a bit of communication or collaboration between all these parties? So approval of customer, yes, and it's not only a one-time activity, gaining approval of the customer. It should be again iterative. As you are improving your software, working on your software, go back again to your customers. See, theoretically, it makes sense to talk, but even logistically, it is always time taking to go through these processes. But over the period of time, uh, the software survival is quite enhanced if you follow this approach. So time to time during each phase of development, as Garvit is mentioning, we have to talk to our customers, users, stakeholders, and even among our team members, and consistently ask ourselves, are we missing something? Is something that has been missed by us? So keep this cartoon in your mind when you're trying to work on your projects, and that is why this was just an attempt to make you understand the fact that the agile, that is why agile methodology focused on collaboration between business stakeholders. So it's not just a management mumbo jumbo that the agile is talking about. It is actually quite empirically based philosophy which has tried to understand that in this 21st century customer is literally the god, and so their feedback and their opinions and attitude and behavior really can make a break a software. So that is why collaboration is important. Then face-to-face interactions are vital. However, in these times where we have been confined to the four walls of our homes or our offices, this has been greatly diminished. However, even in these times, companies have come up with more innovative and creative ways to enable interactions, which obviously will not be able to equate face-to-face interactions, but sort of tackle the challenges associated with the online mode of development. Then working software is the primary measure of progress. So don't get intimidated by the term working software. I mean, it could be a very simple improvement in the existing software that you are trying to make. So this is how you expand on the software development. Basically, you should be able to see that from where we were previously, how far we have come, and then from where we are, how far we need to go. And that is possible when you can actually see the prototype you are working on. It could be as simple as a function which has started to respond, which was not responding earlier. So literally making tangible improvements in the software development process. And attention to technical detail and design enhances agility. That's very important. And it also mentioned that agile processes to support a consistent development pace. Maintaining consistency is vital, not only in software development, but in any project in general, so that you do not lose out touch with what you are doing or trying to accomplish. So that is why when we are abreast with what we are attempting to do, it becomes easier to be more critical in what we are developing, and the progress is also made in a consistent manner. Simplicity. See, simplicity, often I think it is a very stereotypical notion that complex things are more valuable than simple things. So mostly it is considered to be that, but I think simplicity, even in the lab assignments that I'm checking, some of you have expressed it very simply and very elegantly, which means that, at least to me, that the thought process here is clear. Unless and until we can explain a complex thing in a simple manner to a layman, we can be convinced that we have not understood the problem, or we have not understood what we are trying to do. So, breaking down complex software into simple things and really bringing out simplicity in what we are doing enhances the methodology. Then other principles are self-organizing teams, which encourage great architectures, requirements, and designs, and regular reflections on how to become more effective. So what is happening here is you are constantly actively involved in the software development process, rather than being only at the passive side of the computer and trying to interact with the code. So that is the whole philosophy of Agile, and these are the 12 principles. So if you have to, I know that it's very difficult to remember, and you don't need to remember these principles. I won't ask you. But what is essential is that you keep in mind always that what are the different entities which are interacting with the software that you are trying to create, and how those entities are directly and indirectly impacted, and how that impact then again impact on them impacts the quality or the usability or the reliability of your software, and basically its popularity in the market when it's out, so whether or not it is actually able to do all these things. So that is why always remember, if not this, then at least this, that individuals and interactions over process and tools, but do not forget processes and tools. You have to keep both the sides of information together. It's only a matter of which one is emphasized more than the other. So there are a couple of frameworks in Agile. Most popular ones are Scrum, and we will be discussing Scrum in detail in our lecture. And it is mostly in corporate sector also is done. I remember when Agile had come into India, I think when I was there, they had actually conducted lots of meetings to teach us Agile framework. And at that time, we had started working on Agile and had noticed that some of the advantages that came with working in Agile frameworks. And that is why mostly I think the new software engineering books do not talk about Agile, but it is important to know about this framework, especially because of the changing space in the corporate software sector. So we will discuss Scrum in next class, and tomorrow also you will get a lot of details about Agile, among other things, from the guest speaker. But just to give you some introduction, Scrum is basically a framework which helps team work together. It encourages teams to learn through experience. So software development, it's more of an empirical process. Empirical means you're experimenting. You're learning as you're moving forward in the process of software development, and that is what Agile emphasizes. And note that we're not talking about perfection at all here. Not even once they have talked about creating a perfect software. They are only saying you do these steps right, step by step. Perfect software is a consequence of following certain philosophical things when you're developing a software. So, These are the vital concepts we will discuss in our next class. Meanwhile, I want all of you to watch this video. So, can you hear the voice? Is the sound audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Megan Cook, Group Product Manager for Jira Software at Atlassian, the makers of Jira and other collaboration tools. In this series, you'll get an intro to Scrum, an agile framework to help your team get organized, iterate, and continuously improve the projects or products you're working on. At Atlassian, we like to say that great teams have the right practices and the right people and the right tools. This series will cover the practices and people along with some of the key Scrum artifacts. There are also many tools you can use to manage those artifacts, like Jira, not that we're biased, which we'll get into in other series. Follow our channel for the whole course on that. This episode is a high-level overview of Scrum so that we can have a good baseline before getting into more detail. Over the course of this Intro to Scrum series, we'll share more about the process and ceremonies, the roles that each Scrum team must have, and the artifacts they will collect along the way. By the end of the series, you'll have a good understanding of what Scrum is, why so many teams use it, and how it works so that you can start implementing or improving the framework with your team. So let's begin with the basics. What Scrum is and why it's awesome. Scrum is an agile project management framework that teams use to develop, deliver, and sustain complex products. You may hear people use Scrum and Agile interchangeably, but spoiler alert, they're wrong. Scrum is about continuously shipping value to customers. It's a framework for getting work done, while Agile is a set of values and principles, a North Star. This means that it usually comes with significant cultural change. You can't really just go Agile, as it takes a lot more to change the way that you think than it does to change the way that you work. But you can use a framework like Scrum to help you start thinking in a more agile way and practice building agile principles into your communication and your work. Teams of all kinds use Scrum: HR, marketing, design, and more. But perhaps the most common is software development and engineering. It's a favorite framework for many development teams for a few reasons. Software is a living, breathing thing. Requirements change, goals change, situations change. Scrum embraces those changes. With Scrum, a product is built in a series of iterations called sprints that break down big, complex projects into bite-sized pieces. This makes projects more manageable, allows teams to ship high-quality work faster and more frequently, and gives them more flexibility to adapt and change. Scrum's transparency and iterative framework also help overcome many of the recurring problems people often experience in waterfall projects. Short iterations make it possible to reduce risk and costs, get fast feedback from users, increase speed to market, and see value quicker. Milestones, like the end of the sprint, also come frequently and give teams a sense of regular, tangible progress. This helps them stay focused and energized, which increases employee engagement and satisfaction. With benefits like these, it's easy to see why Scrum is a favorite framework for all kinds of teams. But how exactly does it work? Check out our next video to find out.
So this was a bit of introduction on Scrum. I mean, Atlassian is a very good website if you want to understand it more. And Jira is one of the softwares that helps us to track the developments in the software that the lady was talking about. I think Shreya will touch on the basics of Jira tomorrow. And if you want to explore, it's quite easy to use as well. So in the next classes, we will discuss more about the Scrum basics through certain examples, and then try to understand the basics of Agile methodology so that you could reason better how you could introduce them in your projects. So that's all from me for today. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer.